if we ignore that science and sort of put our head in the sand and think it's all about vegetation management, we're not going to succeed together protecting Californians.
Okay. It'll start getting cooler. You just watch.
I wish science agreed with you.
Well, I don't think science knows, actually.
President Trump doubling down on forest management, while the governor and his administration say climate change is what is fueling these apocalyptic-like wildfires. It's been really the hot debate over the last few weeks, climate change versus forest management. So let's have that debate right now with our panel. Time for roll call. The highly acclaimed author and political commentator for Fox News, also former California chair for the Republican Party, and also former U.S. Senate candidate Tom Del Beccaro is here. And climate change advocate, progressive, and candidate for the Fresno Unified Trustee Area 5, David Paredes, is here. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks.
Thanks for having us.
You know, Tom, I'm going to let you have first dibs here. President Trump telling Wade Crowfoot, as you heard, the Secretary of Natural Resources, it'll get cooler. Just watch. Science doesn't actually know. Is that really the right response against the argument that climate change is fueling these fires?
No, the right response is the funding provided by the Trump administration. You know, under the Trump administration, California's gone from a net donor state, meaning it paid more in taxes than it got back, to it gets more money. And the reason why is it relates to wildfires and forest management. Even if you believe that global warming starts these fires, I don't. Arsonists do, lightning does. What you should be doing is doubling down on thinning the forest. Because by your own definition, the forests and areas, even where I live in between towns that are heavily wooded, they present a risk. So if you say that global warming presents a risk, then you are beyond negligent not spending money to reduce the risk by thinning out forests. And that is why California, with the help of the Trump administration, finally last year, after the deadly fires last year, started spending money, greater amounts, doubled the amount they spend, and then doubled it again. So the notion just blame people for global warming is ridiculous. It takes action to save people's lives.
David, go ahead and respond to that. And I'm going to up the ante a little bit here, because we did hear from Vice President Joe Biden on this, and he actually called President Trump a climate change arsonist. Do you agree with that, and your response to what Tom had to say?
Yeah, I don't agree that we should be calling each other arsonists. There is no proof really that anyone is really starting these fires intentionally. I think we really need to look at the historical fact that the issue is colonialism that has really pushed out the indigenous peoples of these lands, of these forested areas. They've done a really good job for over 10,000 years of taking care of these forests, low intensity fires. And on top of that, when it comes to climate change and global warming, really that exacerbates this whole issue. And it really comes down to becoming a recipe for disaster, a recipe for climate disaster. So it's not about climate change versus forest management. It's really a combination of both. And I think, you know, we really just shouldn't be pitting each other against each other when we know for that in reality, it's been colonialization and just climate change that really has exacerbated this and has caused these huge wildfires.
Well, Tom, obviously there's been a lot of finger pointing, and we saw that with the visit from Newsom and Harris here in the Valley at the Creek Fire, of course, using the devastation as a backdrop. And also when President Trump, you know, he's pointing the finger towards the forest management, but that forest management is on federal land. So really, who is to blame?
Well, it's been some 50 years of environmental rule in this state, which hasn't allowed proper forest management. In fact, over 20 years ago, James Rogan, the congressman, put forth a bill to try and get money to clear out the wooded areas in Los Angeles County 20 years ago, and it didn't happen. I've talked to people inside PG&E, and they'll tell you that they have to fight environmentalists all the time to do the cleaning out. So the question is, okay, blame one side or the other, but what would you do today? If your house was filled with newspaper, that presents a fire risk. Do you blame the fact that the newspaper is there, or do you take out the newspaper? And the question becomes, okay, you believe that it's global warming. Fine. then clear out the forest, because global warming ups the risk. And so you should do everything to reduce the risk, which requires clearing out the forest.
David, real quick, who's to blame?
To blame is this capitalist system that has ultimately resulted in this. You know, there is no real incentive for people to be able to clear out these forests. Now, with the Green New Deal federally, it would create tons of new jobs that would be doing exactly what Tom is talking about, which is something that we can agree on. We want new jobs. We want these forests to be cleared out. I personally feel that land should be given back to those who have been taking care of this area for such a long, long time. And it, you know, before the U.S. really took over these territories, there was no big issues like this because of the proper land management that has been going on for such a long time.
All right, guys, I want to finish with this. We got about 60 seconds here, so I want to really start with this. Obviously, two big visits here. It's, you know, President Trump having the big round table. Sheriff Margaret Mims was a part of that. And then again, Governor Newsom and Vice Presidential candidate Kamala Harris coming down here to the Valley. So which visit was more impactful? David, I'll start with you, and then Tom, you'll get the last word. Go ahead.
I would say it was pretty impactful for President Trump to visit and to really investigate and to see what was going on. It was very upsetting for him to just deny the science of climate change. We know that this election is one of the biggest elections ever, and for him to say that that science isn't true or whatever just really put a slap in the face to all of those people who are being affected by the creek fires today. You know, I know we don't have too much time, but I was out there delivering goods and necessities to those people who are being impacted, even to our firefighters. Mm-hmm. And I don't see really any of that going on with our elected officials, especially on the Republican side. So I want to see more of us acknowledging the young people who are organizing and who are delivering those goods and services.
Tom, I got about 20 seconds.
President Trump has provided the most funding in history, and I find it interesting that Kamala Harris finally went to the Valley, one of the most important places in the world. After 3 years, she's been elected in her first visit back, and it took a tragedy.
All right, guys, we got a lot more to come a little bit later, so hang tight. But up next, it's the rage over the Bob Woodward tapes. And will it ultimately derail President Trump's bid to retain the Oval Office? National political reporter for the Washington Post, Robert Costa, joins me next.